Hey, you awesome folks! Thanks for taking this journey of discovery with your guide, Keith Haney. You're listening to the Becoming Bridge Builders podcast, your favorite podcast for everything from racial reconciliation to education innovation, justice reform, and leading change in the 21st century. This podcast is for people who love to be challenged with difficult topics, but want practical solutions to solve these challenging issues. Becoming Bridge Builders makes change possible. Each week on the podcast, Keith invites innovative thought leaders to share how they are building bridges in their area of expertise. You will hear breakthrough ideas and concepts that are changing the world. He's featuring guests who are best-selling authors, leaders at Microsoft, entrepreneurs, leading educators, professors, lawyers, and so many more. Listen in to learn how you can be the bridge to the change you are seeking.
Beate Chelette. She's a growth architect and founder of the Woman's Code and provides visionaries and leaders with proven strategies, blueprints, and growth maps that provide clear steps to improve business systems, strengthen leadership skills, and teams so that our clients and audiences can maximize profits and scale their impact. Beate is known as a straight shooter in her ability to inspire, empower, and overcoming adversity. Her super skill is working with unique personalities and big thinkers and building executable systems. She's a first-generation immigrant who found herself $135,000 in debt as a single parent. Beate bootstrapped her passion for photography into a global business that licensed content into 79 countries. She exited in a multi-billion-dollar deal when she sold the company to Bill Gates. She is a podcast host of the Business Growth Architect Show and is listed amongst the top 100 global thought leaders by People Hum and one of 50 most followed women entrepreneurs by Huffington Post. We welcome her to the podcast. Well, how are you doing today? So good to have you on the podcast.
Keith, I'm excited to be here. I can't wait to dive right in.
Me either. I like to give my guests an easy question, a kind of a get to know you question. So what's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Fail faster.
Fail faster?
Yeah, and that's just a very simple concept because people are so terrified of failing. So if you become really excellent at failing, then you wouldn't have to worry about how you feel about it because it's part of your mindset. You go, if I fail faster, then I know I can exclude this piece from the path because it's not working and I can move on to the next one.
I like that. And you get it out of the way. So it's like I got it out of the way so I can move on. I like that.
I mean, truly, but people don't take that very well. People like to be attached to, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. And, it didn't work out. And what are other people going to think about me? I'm never going to do this. And there's like one story I have with that, Keith, that I always tell is like when you have a GPS in your car and inevitably there's an update on the GPS. And it says, Keith, you need to update your GPS, but you're very business. You got to go to service. You have to have a house call. You have phone calls to make. You need to come home.
Right.
You need to eat, whatever it is. And so you're not updating the GPS. And then one day, inevitably, the shortcut that you used to take rather than the freeway is now a cul-de-sac because they're building that thing that they've been talking about for years. So now you're going to get out of your car, Keith, and you're going to throw yourself on the ground and you go like, oh my God, I'm the worst driver in the world. That's it. I'm done driving. I'll never drive again. What will other people think of me? I took the wrong turn. I can't tell anybody about this. I'm so ashamed. Does nobody ever. You just, stay in your car, you turn around, you wave at the guy with the neon sign
right.
and the stop sign and the hard hat. You say, note to self, update my GPS. And somehow magically, that the destination you wanted to go to is still there, even though you took a wrong turn. That's why I say fail faster.
See, my GPS horror story is I didn't update mine, ended up in a trailer park. So there you go.
Oh, no.
I'm like, how'd I end up here? I love to ask my guests about their journey. So tell me about your personal story, your journey.
Yeah, my personal story is probably very much like many other people. I was, I always had big dreams and not much to back it up with other than the idea. And I'm originally from Germany. I'm a first generation immigrant here in the United States. And I was very drawn to creativity. And then when I did go into photography, I was realizing very quickly, Keith, that I was better at the business side versus the creative side, which was a shock, but that's just the way it is. And so I focused my entire life on helping creative people, artists, big thinkers, thought leaders, visionaries, to help them land planes. And that's kind of my passion in life, is to look at what great idea other people have. And a lot of people that have great ideas circle at 30,000 feet and they can never land the plane. And so when you don't land a plane for refueling, you'll crash. So I help them land the plane.
I love that, because I've been a couple of talks with people who I keep saying, please land the plane. You're circling a runway and it just never ends. So that's a great analogy. I love that.
Thank you.
What lessons did you learn on that journey?
What lessons did I not learn on that journey? So number one, I would say very much like what I said, that failing is a really critical part. Number two, I learned that the path is never up to us. And the more we insist, and I bet, Keith, that you come across this in your line of work all the time, that people think that they're responsible for every step of the way. And that's just not the case. And we get so convoluted with this idea that it has to go like the internet marketer told us, or the funnel builder told us, or that it has to go a particular way. And it kind of never really is. So I learned that there's two pieces you have control over. That's the beginning, which is where you are right now, because it's the decisions and choices you made that led you here, and where you want to go, because that's the vision, that's the dream. The path typically is up to God, myself included. Everybody fights that. That's, I think, the biggest thing I've learned in life, Keith, is that the surrender seems to be the most difficult thing. And I heard something really interesting the other day, and somebody sent this to me, and it says, if you worry, you don't trust God.
Mm.
And I'm going like, what? What are you saying? And it's exactly that, is if we fix, or we try to fix us or other people, we're doing the work of God. If we are trying to, we have influence over the path and influence over the decisions that we're making. But what comes to us is typically something that is completely out of the ordinary. And I have another really amazing story to validate this concept. So my claim to fame is that I built and sold a business, and then I sold it to Bill Gates for millions of dollars. So the story on how this sale in the final thing kind of came about is that I had a mother-in-law that was a complete knack. And she would tell me, you need to write a letter to the president of the United States and ask him for help. And I'm like, eye rolling, sigh. Who the heck writes a letter to the president of the United States? What a bloody waste of time. And she just would not stop. He's the number one guy in the country. If anybody can help you, it's him. Write the letter. And I wrote the letter, Keith, for one and one reason only, because I just didn't want to talk to her about this.
Right.
Imagine my surprise then when, after, all this disaster and the adversity that I had to overcome, and I think I'm out cold. I'm $135,000 in debt. I'm a single parent. My dad just died. I've been thrown out of the house I've been living in for 10 years. I got nothing. And I get a letter from the White House.
Wow.
And it says the president sends his best wishes. So the president, of course, never saw the letter, Keith. That would be preposterous. But what it did do, it put me in touch with the Small Business Administration. And because they also got a letter from the White House with a second in command. And that guy looked at this and said, what nutcase writes a letter to the president instead of calling me directly, which had never even occurred to me.
Wow.
And he goes like, I must meet this person. And then I walked in and he says, I'll put in what you put in. And he helped me to find a bank that was restructuring my $135,000 in debt into a 10-year fixed loan. 3 months later, I'm break even because I have the cash in my line of credit. And 18 months later, I'm the leader in my category. And that's what got us the attention from a Bill Gates company.
Wow, what a story.
I know. And I think the story is so important because, like everybody else, I was poo-pooing it. I was like, what a dumb idea. Who does that? And if I wouldn't have done this really dumb idea that nobody does, I wouldn't be where I am today. And I think that's what people forget when we talk about the path unfolding and what is the work of God and how does God play into, or spirit, universe, whatever people are comfortable with talking about it. However this falls into it, that's, I think, a perpetual daily fight. And I don't know what you see, but I struggle with this still to this day. I have to remind myself, it's like, why are you not surrendering to this? Because I still think I know it better.
Well, the tendency is God's too busy for my little problems. He's got so much else on his mind, probably. We think we put God into the human category of being like ourselves. If we're the ones in charge, we are thinking, I don't have, this is a really minor thing. You can handle this on your own. Give me the big stuff. And maybe I think we kind of put God in a human category if he's going, I'll handle the big stuff, you take care of the small stuff. Whereas God says, give me all the stuff and we'll work it out together.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
And now a word from one of our sponsors, For Freedom Mobile. If you're using AT&T, Verizon, or T-Mobile, then you're being tracked. Mobile providers collect your location, communications, internet activity, even your financial transaction. They sell that data to anyone willing to pay for it and provide it to the government without a warrant. Switch to For Freedom Mobile, and you won't ever have to worry about big tech or Big Brother tracking you through your mobile phone again. For Freedom Mobile provides secure, unlimited talk, text, and high-speed data for just $29.99 a month, and it includes free internet roaming in over 200 countries. Sign up for the service by visiting forfreedommobile.com and using the promo code BRIDGEBUILDERS to get your first month for only $9.99. See forfreedommobile.com for details, just like the number 4, freedommobile.com.
I think there's something to be said about that is, would I have put this in relationship that this was really a divine intervention or divine guidance for me to write this letter and send it to the President of the United States? That never even occurred to me. But if I look back and I look at spiritual principles or what rules the universe, and we now know that a lot of the religious principles are very aligned with the scientific principles and the physics principles of this world. White only can exist if dark exists. So good can only exist if bad exists. And we only know it is good because we've seen bad. And we can only, and vice versa. So if we look at the law of polarity, then we know if we're broke, we know the money must be there. It's just the opposite side of it.
Right.
But we're so focused on the broke that we can't see the money. Right.
Exactly.
And then you go, my head is about to explode.
Right. So I'm curious, I ran across this title I've never heard of before, and I want to ask you to kind of explain what it is that you do. What does a growth architect do?
So the term growth architect came from my probably very German way of thinking and the engineering aspect that I think is just a lot in my culture, where we are very factual and logistic. Now, of course, not everybody's like that, but I think Germany as a whole has a lot of that, because that's, recognized as a barometer of this country. I believe that everybody expects Germans to be very organized and, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and process oriented. Well, I happen to be. And when I look at people who come to me and ask me, how do I build my business? I always go like, how can you not know that? It's so easy. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And they're like, how did you do that? And I'm like, do what? And they said, well, I mean, how can you like know this? I said, well, it's obvious. And so I realized that what my process was a very automatic and very intuitive process of taking in information, reassembling it. And then I looked at if I build a house, there are certain things that you need to have. Like you need to decide where you're going to build the house. You're going to need to decide how big the house is. You're going to need to decide which way the living room is facing and how big the garage is. And you need to figure out if it's a 1-story or 2-story. And based on that, decisions have to be made. Foundations have to be poured. And growth architecture is very much like that. I help you to figure out the blueprint of what you're wanting to build, but how you decorate it, I don't really care if you have the blue couch, the green couch, the yellow couch, the orange couch. I don't know if it's a 2-seater, a 6-seater. I don't really care about that. I just need to make sure that you're living in the house that you said you wanted. And so growth architecture for me is, again, it's like the sandbox is the blueprint. And within that blueprint, you still have a lot of decisions you can make autonomous, but it is a clearly defined parameter of what needs to be built.
I love that. So let's look at you also have kind of 3 essential framework elements to grow your authority. So looking at that same process of a 1, 2, 3 step, what are those 3 essential frameworks to do that?
Well, the first is, of course, always a strategy, because without the strategy, you don't know where you're going. You're just rudderless. A lot of people just get up in the morning and they dilly-dally through the day, and they get caught in their emails and they're passively answering things instead of having a project or a goal that they're going toward. And the second piece is growth, because we always need to be growing. We always need to be going somewhere. Again, in nature, the concept of wait and see doesn't exist. I've yet to see an oak tree that says in the summer or in the spring, hey, you know what, Keith, I'm going to just take like 100 leaves, okay? I'm just going to sprout 100 leaves, and then let's just wait and see how that goes. If people come, if they're appreciative and they, like the 100 leaves, then I'm slowly rolling out more over the next couple months until the process is complete. Said no tree ever. I mean, that would be preposterous. So you look at nature and you go, well, if the concept doesn't exist in nature, should it exist in our world? Or is it just another one of those things that we've done? And I think that a lot of times this happens in religion when people say, well, I sort of believe in God, but I'm not really sure. It's like, well, you either believe or you don't believe. I mean, there really
Right.
isn't I'm going to try believing. I mean, it's an interesting concept, but I think people have a hard time committing to it. So they keep that back door open. Well, I do think that there's questions to be asked about certain things that I'm sure you are well prepared to answer, but that has nothing to do with your belief in God. You can believe in God from a purely positive perspective. That is your belief system, but it's still God. I know plenty of people that have, made certain decisions. My sister says, I don't believe in hell. I believe in God. I don't believe in hell. That's my belief. I said, that's fine by me. I don't, and other people are constantly worried about that. That's their belief system. So we have to think about when we are growing, to go back to the 3 elements, is that you got to be very clear about what it is that you're growing. And that brings us to the third part, which is mindset, which we already talked about a little bit. Like, what do you really believe in? Again, this concept of wait and see doesn't exist. It's like, I can't believe a little bit that I'm going to make it.
Right.
I'm pretty sure I'm going to make it, but I'm not entirely sure. But I think it's possible. Well, of course it's possible. But, I'm going to be very hopeful that it's going to work.
Right.
That's not mindset. That's wishful thinking. Mindset is make the decision and then act as if you actually made the decision. I have these conversations all the time, Keith, where somebody says to me, well, what should I do? I said, well, you are now a $1 million business. You want to be a $5 million business. How does a $5 million business owner make this decision? Because if you think that you can make that decision to get to 5 million based on a $1 million mindset, I said, that's not going to work.
Right.
Oh, okay.
I love that. So my world right now is kind of the podcast world for one thing that I do. And, every podcaster has the same question. How do I get my product, my podcast to grow on the market? So if you were kind of advising someone like that, what's the best and fastest way to kind of grow your authority in a market?
Authority is a funny thing. A lot of people have a mixed understanding of what authority actually means. There's a difference between a celebrity, an influencer, and an authority. We deal primarily with authorities. We deal with people that have industry expertise. So the mindset, again, remember we talked about strategy, growth, and mindset. We're going back to the same thing. What am I building? Am I building a podcast for what? What is my authority in? And then I see a lot of times that somebody does something and then the podcast about something else. So there's a gentleman I spoke to, and he does franchising as a business. His podcast is not about that. That's not authority.
Right.
That's a disconnect. So you have to make sure that you make that decision on where are you going to be the authority in, and then everything you do has to go into this one thing. And I'm going to give another example. So we had before the last year, we had done a lot of high ticket stuff, signature growth system, growth strategy, which we still do, but I have found that the high ticket sales are definitely tighter right now, that people are worried about the recession. They definitely is more wait and see kind of attitude. And when I looked at this, I did ask my team to do some research. And then one of my guys came back and he says, did you know that the term certification outperforms the search term Trump? I'm like, that's really interesting. And you don't worry, we're not going political, anyone. You don't have to hang up or run away. But that's a big statement. That means that people are less worried about what's going on outside, but more worried about what's going on with them. And then we looked at it and we said, what we need to do, we need to go back and come back with a lower priced product and helping people to turn their talent into a business. And then we looked at our quiz. So we have a quiz that was about the number one business growth blocker, which I thought was a great quiz. But the leads that we got from that were not congruent with what we wanted. So now we changed it, and we now have a new quiz that asks the question, what's your talent worth? Because we now know with people looking for certifications and looking to transition from corporate into jobs or taking, what you talked about, becoming the authority in something, they're going to need to have some sort of a path to follow. And I'm the growth architect, so I do blueprints. And so we have a program that we had created a couple of years ago that had over 22,000 people that have taken this program. And so I went back and I said, okay, let's update this program and make it more current, make sure that it's adjusted with what we're doing right now. So the first question we're asking right now, what's your talent worth? And if you're listening and you want to know what your talent is worth, just go to what'syourtalentworth.com. It's an actual mathematical calculation. And it'll give you an actual dollar amount or whatever currency you input based upon the numbers you gave me. Those are not my numbers. I'm not promising you 10x. I'm not promising you 5x. I'm not telling you the 4-hour work week. None of this nonsense. I'm just asking you, what's your experience? What have you done? What market are you in? How does this compute? And then I'll use my profit formula and I'll calculate it, and then you'll get that number. And then I'm going to ask you, once you have that number, and I had a gentleman who did this, and his number was $775,000, which I think was completely accurate with what he does, data scientist. And then I ask him, what are you going to do with this? And then they go, well, if that's my earning potential, I better get on with it. And then we have the product that then fulfills that. So when we talk about authority building, that's what you need to think about, is how do I get them in? What am I the authority in? Is what I do relevant? And then everything you do has to push this. And you may have to take some of the other things that you've done and put them on the back burner. Or, we build signature growth systems, so we hide it somewhere in this overall umbrella of the system somewhere, so it's not the main hero. But the main idea has to be the main idea. What do you actually do? I'm a growth architect. I help people to turn their business into a talent, and then when they've done that, grow it, and then when they've done it, scale it.
Oh, that's fascinating.
So there's 3 entry points.
Yeah, no, that's fascinating. I never thought of it that way, and you've broken it down kind of based on, again, we talked about earlier, your background from your country, making things very, very calculated, very, very, controlled. And I like how you make it so it's less about aspirational goals as much as it is, here is some concrete numbers that go along with what you're doing.
I mean, isn't that a much better way? And I think this is the part, Keith, I bet you see this a lot in your work too, where people go, well, I was listening to so-and-so, and he said it's really easy. And in 4 hours a week, I can make $1 million. And then I listen to the law of attraction, and I don't even have to ever leave my house.
Right.
Good luck with that.
It's the law of being unemployed and homeless.
It is the law of nothing.
Right.
Because if you multiply 0 with anything, it is a 0, which we also have in our mathematical calculation. So there is one piece in there. If you enter a 0, you're going to get a 0 result.
Oh, wow.
Because you can't multiply 0.
That's really interesting.
FYI.
I also want to talk about your book. You have a book out, Happy Woman, Happy World. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so Happy Woman, Happy World, I wrote because I felt that the way women are perceived, or what happens for women as a single mom, is very different to what the men's code is. A lot of times stuff happens on the golf course over the weekend that women didn't even know because they're at home taking care of the kids, going to soccer games, karate, dance classes. And then I saw that women do a lot of really terrible stuff to other women. So it's not just the men, but a lot of women are behaving very terribly toward other women. And so I looked at what men do, and I'm like, well, they have a code. We don't. So how can I expect men who are, when I start my job, 50% of my competition, are going to interfere if the other 50% women are destroying each other? They don't even have to do anything. Why would they interfere with that? They go like, go ahead. 50% of my competition can take itself down to 10%. I'll take it.
Right.
My risk, my chances are much, much higher. And that's why I wrote the book, because I wanted women to take responsibility for who we are and what we do, and say, hey, we need a code. And then I wanted to also tell women that they need to, that if the battle isn't here, the battle's out there, which is what we're seeing right now. I mean, the onslaught on women's rights again, not just here, but all over the world. And that's because we took our eye off the ball.
Yeah, that's been disturbing to see, actually. And I have not figured out yet why women haven't caught on to what's happening. Maybe more.
It's not just women, but it's also Black Lives Matter. It's also Asian Lives Matter. It's everything. I mean, it is the pendulum always swings that way. The minute people are conscious about it, the government and corporations will do what they need to do to be in the graces. The minute something else like COVID happens and takes your eye off the ball, and somebody says, should we change the legislation? And everybody screams yes, because we don't really want to deal with it. And I'm an investor, so I get all the reports from Amazon and Google And the shareholder votes, I cannot even begin to tell you how many times on the shareholder votes it says a vote is required on should we report on child labor, should we report on women's rights, should we report on gender pay gaps, should we report on discrimination. And guess what the recommendation is on every single one of them by the board of directors?
What's that?
Vote against it.
Wow.
So here they are on the outside, and they're telling you Amazon, Google, Facebook, Meta, whatever, we are so X and X and X and X. And then I get the shareholder vote. And it says the board of directors recommends to vote against any of these things that on the outside they say that they're doing. And then they can say, well, we put it on we voted on it, and it didn't, apparently it was not important to our shareholders.
Wow. That's insightful. I had no idea that was going on.
All the time. So, but that's to my point of my book is I wanted people to pay attention to this and say, what you do does matter.
Yeah, it does. That's very important to remember. I'm curious, in your position, what drives you every day? What is your why?
And strange, sick desire to make an impact. I think for me, believe me, I'm right now in a point of my life. My daughter had a baby, so my whole role changes. I've been having, for the first time in my life, some health issues. I'm feeling anxiety pop up that I haven't had in 30 years. So I'm going like, WTF is going on here? But the thing that lights me up is when I speak to somebody about a brilliant idea. And, I just had a conversation last week, and it's a client of mine. And then he ran this idea by me where he has figured out some of the systems that I recommended him. And then he just took it and created a way for small business owners to find people and automate that whole interview process with video. I mean, it is ridiculously good.
Wow.
And so when I talk to somebody like that and he says, do you think there's viability? I said, are you kidding? I said, that's a SaaS model. That's $100 million project that somebody like Indeed's going to buy from you, because it's going to revolutionize the way, not just the, how we run ads, but what happens after we run the ads and find people. Because that's where the problem is, people randomly just sending their resume out and go like, well, I can't hurt if I send it. But then what's the vetting process? And, that's where a lot of small business owners get choked up. So when I hear something like that, I'm all in. Like I'd be hiking on the weekend and I'd be thinking about that.
Right.
So helping people make an impact is really what lights me up every day.
I love that. If you had one message to give to people today, because you say your goal now is to inspire, what would that message be?
You got to do the work. You got to do the work. This idea of sitting and waiting and waiting and waiting, there is no one day. One day is today. What are you waiting for? A sign from God while you're listening to a podcast. God just gave you a sign. I used to have, when I was speaking, I wrote a sign and I hung it on the insides of the bathrooms. And it said, if you're waiting for a sign, this is it. You're looking at the sign. Come to my talk. And that's what my message really is this, you don't know until you go out there and you'll actually do it. And no, you don't know what it's going to be like because you haven't started it yet. And the second step doesn't become clear unless you've taken the first step. And the decision sets the energy into motion that then makes all of this, puts all of this in place. Because then is when somebody nags you to write a letter to the president of the United States, even though you think it's completely irrelevant. And then when you do it, you realize it's the most powerful thing you've ever done in your entire life, just to literally shut someone up because they got on your nerves.
Right.
So take action. It's like, what, and I think that sometimes, Keith, and I hope you're okay with me saying that. And I think sometimes people that believe in God and they pray a lot, that's where they completely get caught. Because they go like, I got to pray on it. I'm going to pray on it. I'm like, how much longer are you going to pray on that? do you think that the answer is going to change? Because I tell you what God's answer is. God's going to say, do you really want this? And then you're going to say yes. And then God says, great, go. You're done praying over that question. The next question you're going to pray over is how.
Right.
Not what, but how. Then you're going to get that answer. But if you keep praying over the same thing, I don't know, should I not? Well, then you're going to get a whole bunch of convoluted answers back. But if you say, I'm really passionate about it, can I do this? The answer most likely is going to be yes. And then your next question you ask God in your journal is how? Tell me how to start. Yeah, you just listened to the podcast. You're going to go now to whatsyourtalentworth.com. You're going to find out in the next 2 minutes the exact number of what you could earn. And the number is remarkably accurate, if I may say so, and clap myself on the shoulder for my own brilliance here. And then you look at that number and then you tell me what are you going to do about that? Because I bet that number is more than you're making right now.
That's really interesting. Going back to that point you made about praying, there's kind of a joke in my circles of, I prayed the guy would rescue me from this roof, and he sent a boat. They sent another boat, and then he sent a helicopter. And then I drowned and I asked God, why didn't you rescue me? And God said, I sent 2 boats and a helicopter. You didn't get on either one of them. So, maybe he does. He is answering our prayers, but we're still waiting for a different answer than the one God gave us.
We go like, I asked for the Bentley.
You're right. And you gave me a Toyota.
It came as a crappy Toyota. That's not what I asked for.
Right.
I'm like, well, dude, it can't have been that bad then.
Right.
Because I would have tied myself to the roof of a Toyota if it would have been that bad.
Right.
But that's I think the judgment, you're absolutely correct. I think the judgment is where people get caught all the time.
Right. I love to ask my guests this question. What do you want your legacy in the world to be?
When you go to my tombstone, I wanted to say, here lies a woman who made an impact.
Yeah.
Even though I have no illusions that probably 50 years from now, nobody has any clue who I am because I'm not exactly Thomas Edison. But, but I think that and that's another piece that I'm doing a lot of work on right now is the self-importance of what does it really matter? Because at the end of the day, the guaranteed outcome that we have is we will die.
Right.
So if I know, hypothetically speaking, that I would die, which most people are absolutely shocked that seems to be the case, then what do I need to do to get to that point and have a pretty awesome exit and say this was really worth it? And it ain't not being at home sitting Funyuns on the couch watching reruns.
Right.
It is being out there telling your friends you love them, taking that idea, daring, because your outcome is guaranteed. You will die. And then our souls will go where our souls go. That's guaranteed. But this lose the fear. That's really my big message. Lose the fear, step up, make the impact. What are you waiting for? And we have all fear. I still have fear. I mean, I'm doing an ayahuasca journey, and I'm doing this because I have a lot of childhood trauma that I've really ignored very successfully. I mean, I kind of know it's there, but I did a lot of work on it. So let's just not deal with it. But it's coming back up, and I'm terrified that there's other stuff that's going to come up that I don't remember. I'm sure it's also something that you deal with in your work all the time. I go like this, the fear of the unknown. What else was there? And it causes me, that's why I'm coughing, because, it's like literally taking my breath away. I feel like I'm choking. I have anxiety. I haven't had anxiety in 30 years. I'm really not an anxious person, but I am right now. That means that there's something there that is ready to be released, but I don't really want to
Right.
because it's extremely uncomfortable.
Yeah, those moments when you can feel that something's there that's underneath the surface that we think we bury it really well, but we don't. It just keeps popping up in other ways, sometimes in different parts of our life, different parts of interaction. People trigger it, and we keep trying to push it down. And it's like somebody says, like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. That beach ball eventually will pop up and hit you in the face if you hold it down long enough.
That's a really good analogy. I like that a lot. Yes. And then, in the conversations we have about these things, what is it? What is that beach ball that you're holding down? That if you try something and then you fail, well, remember the GPS story. We started with that. Well, that's just not that way. Doesn't mean that there is no way. It just means that way is not the right way.
Right.
Oh, okay. So I'll find another way. Yeah. It's like, does it? I spoke to a sales guy, Matt Ryder from 7th Level, and he had the best example. He said, when you go in the supermarket and you look at the avocado and then you put the avocado down and you leave the store without the avocado, do you think the manager of the market's going to take this personal? Is he going to run after you and say, why don't you like my avocado? What's wrong with my avocado? What's wrong with you?
Right.
Do you have avocado bias? What's that all about? I can't feed my family if you don't buy this avocado. So if you put it into an example that's a lot more different, it's like, I just didn't feel like I wanted avocado. I thought about it and then I was like, no, I'm not making guacamole today. Too much fat. I'm just gonna have something else to eat. It's not about the store owner. It's not about you. It's not even about the avocado. It's about, that's just how things go. People make decisions. And that's what we have to remind ourselves, to not take all this stuff so personal. And that's the hardest thing in the world.
It definitely is. So people who've listened to us for the last little bit here may want to know, how do I connect with you? So give us your website and how to find you on social media.
Yeah, so you can find me pretty much everywhere as the Growth Architect or Beate Chelette. I think I'm the only person with this name, believe it or not.
Probably.
And go take the quiz. What's your talent worth? As I said. And if you heard something where you say, I must speak to her, then go to uncoverysession.com. Make sure you mention Becoming Bridge Builders, the show, so that we can give you priority treatment. While we are at it, please, will you do us a huge favor, wherever you pick up the show, will you go and give Keith a 5-star rating, subscribe to the podcast, and share this episode with one other person. Comments are really critical for engagement because it tells the algorithm this is a show worth listening to. And Keith is doing this as a labor of love, so give him some love back.
I appreciate that. And thank you for just adding amazing content to the podcast list. And you do have so much that you have already given to the world. Just from our conversation, I can just see how you pour into people's life and help those ideas that they maybe have kind of in a very seed stage of it, develop into a tree that really can blossom and make our world a better place. So thank you for unlocking people's dreams and their potential.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to Becoming Bridge Builder. If you enjoyed this episode and want to help support the podcast, please subscribe and share it with others. Post about it on social media or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from me, you can follow me on Instagram at @bkeithhaney and on Getter and Twitter @RevHeadpin or on his website at alightbreaksthrough.org. Thanks again and tune in next time.
Do you know that most entrepreneurs hit a revenue ceiling and have no idea why? They're working harder, spending more money, running more ads, but revenue stays flat. My friend Dr. Noah St. John calls this the invisible break. He's giving our listeners a free revenue ceiling audit to help you see what's really holding you back. You'll get a free 30-day membership to NoahBot, giving you access to Dr. Noah's 30 years of experience to help you reach your next level. But hurry, because there's only 50 available this month. So if you're tired of being stuck at the same revenue level and want to finally break through, get your free revenue ceiling audit at drnoahvault.com in the affiliate link that'll be listed in the show notes.
Thanks for listening to Becoming Bridge Builder. If you enjoyed this episode and want to help support the podcast, please subscribe and share it with others. Post about it on social media or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from me, you can follow me on Instagram at @BKeithHaney and on Getter and Twitter @RevHeadpin. Thanks again and tune in next time.